Good evening, and welcome back to the Hodgepodge Lodge. I'm Alan,
I'm Dustin.
and tonight we are going to be talking about whatever comes to mind. Could it be the mystery of the Loch Ness Monster? Could it be what items in the fridge we've left for too long and they've now become rotten? The world may never know. But for tonight, just to kind of start things off on a rather interesting tangent, we decided that we were going to talk about some things that, as we were younger, we didn't really like them, didn't really care about them too much specifically. Very much like these things can be minor and major in their own way. Then deciding kind of at that point where we're like, maybe I was wrong about this thing or this item, and then basically kind of changed our opinions on it. Maybe gave it what would be the second chance, and then from there, kind of seeing where we might launch to other things that are currently like in our interests or things that we are hopefully going to gauge in with as time kind of goes on. Things go.
Yes, we're gonna turn over a new leaf as this thing goes. And it's funny that you mentioned the food. I don't mean to cut you off, right? But literally last night I found cheese that had mold on it. So
Oh no.
yeah, I had to toss some. That's what happens when you just aren't cheesy enough, I guess.
Well, I mean, at that point with the mold taking over, it was nacho cheese
It's
anymore.
not. But them. Oh man. So tell me, what's something that as a kid, we're gonna go real far back, try to work our way up. As a kid, what was something that you didn't like?
As a kid, something that I didn't like or I never really gave the chance for was gravy.
Okay.
Brown mashed taters and brown gravy. I mean, I loved potatoes, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed them, but the moment my dad was like, "Hey, eat this brown goop with your dinner," and I was like, "You are crazy. This is the arguably one of the most unappetizing things in my like 6 or 7 year old brain whenever gravy was an option as things go
Yeah.
that I would just look at it and just be like, no, there's no way there's anything good that can come of it. And I held for a very long time that I was like, gravy, it just ain't it. And I never even tried the gravy, so I was living in blissful ignorance the entire time.
Yeah.
But in that space of things, gravy was just my big like this is my hill, and I will die on it for decades if I must.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because it's similar but different for me. Gravy, growing up, I never did condiments of any kind. Like no ketchup, no mustard, no ranch, no nothing. I was just dry as dry can be, like drywall. And but you were saying gravy, something I hated, and to this day, it's still like I'll if I have to, I'll eat it, but I won't pick it. Is mashed potatoes.
Really?
Mashed potato. It feels like inflated sand when I eat it. It's just like I don't know how else to explain it, but I don't know if it's the texture or what. But mashed potatoes to me, it's just like the thought and feel of it is just it doesn't taste great to me. And
Mhm.
it's a texture thing, I guess, but I don't know. It's just like blown up sand particles. It just doesn't appeal to me, you know?
That is some real modernist Anakin Skywalker energy over there about sand.
Uh,
Yeah, I think like it's one of those things with mashed potatoes. It has to be like the texture has to be just right.
right.
Like I think I prefer a mashed potato that's more fluid. Like I think that like there isn't like, clusters of, hard potato in the mashed potatoes.
Right.
And like it's something that like when it like cools, like it's still like kind of mushy. But yeah, I've never likened it to sand, honestly. That's very curious.
I don't know. Call me weird or an outlier, liar, but it's that's just the first thing I think of when I take a bite. I just the first thing I've always thought of since I was a kid was that it's just like hot sand, hot puffy sand, just non-enjoyable food for me.
Mhm.
And I mean, like baked potatoes took me a while to come around to. Eventually, I did, and but mashed potatoes are just a no-go for me, even to this day.
Hmm,
Yeah.
hmm.
And growing up in Montana, that's apparently rare because, you know, My parents are all about the mashed potatoes when they were able to eat them. Now they're on a diet, but it's like mashed potatoes, and my dad would be like, "What's wrong with you?" Be like, "You don't like your mashed taters? What?" So, oh well.
Yeah. I guess kind of following on that trend of things, I was not a vegetable person at
Oh,
all.
mm-mm.
Like, you had to pull my teeth in a metaphorical sense to get me to eat my vegetables. Um, I eventually came around for like a select few. Like, I think it was specifically corn that was given a little bit of spice. So you have the Mexican corn mix as
Yes.
things go. So you got the little peppers, and you've got like when it has like the I guess kind of like the pan juice of it where it's like, a little bit wet. That's what I really like is I like that salty, savory flavor of things. Um, we had peas, but I think peas for the longest time
Oh,
were in that space of things of like like there were
ugh.
good days for peas, and then there were days where I was struggling to like get peas
You'd
down.
see
Like
them on
not
the
like in
menu
like
and you're
offense.
peed off. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Um, yeah, no, it's just peas for me. Some days they were okay, but other days I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the most bland vegetable I could be eating here. Like, give me the snow pod peas for what while I'm at it as things are in that space of things.
Well, and it's peas are the same thing to me as like mashed potatoes because you bite into them and they just kind of like melt. You know what I mean? It's just weird. And I've never liked peas because they didn't have taste, in my
Mhm.
opinion. Like, you know, I agree with you. Growing up, I was not a vegetable guy. I've definitely, varied a little bit, but it was always corn or green beans. Those were like the two that I would eat. And I can never eat regular green beans all that well. Like, I will if I have to. But growing up, mom used to always put salad elegance on the green beans. I don't know if you know what that is.
Is it kind of like an alpine spice or like
Kind of.
kind of seasoning?
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, it's for salads and such, but she would always put it on the green beans. And growing up, that's how I ate them. So whenever I went and ate green beans anywhere else with no seasoning or anything, I was like, the fuck is this? What is this? So it's like I was spoiled that way. Of course, mom's always been a great cook, and I know you can attest to that. But growing up, man, salad elegance on green beans. If you guys have never had there's always got to be one mess up.
You
Salad
get one
elegance.
mulligan the
I
entire
get
night.
one mulligan, so I have to be perfect now. If you have not tried salad elegance on green beans, then do it. Do it the next time you have green beans.
Yeah. I think green beans for me were ruined when we would have them as cafeteria lunch. I
Ah,
don't know if you remember, like, just the drenched in water, like, not greasy, but like slick. Like, they did not have substance, they were disintegratable in
just
your fork. Like,
slug trails.
yeah, it was like you were eating legitimate like algae. Like it was like you were eating a ball of algae that was hot and just not ideal. Like that just kind of took it ruined the allure of green beans for me. Is I can just
Oh.
picture that military green bean just sopping wet and I'm just like this is garbage. Like
It's
no
just
offense to any of the lunch ladies that might be watching this. Like there were some meals from that cafeteria that were awesome, and we'll
oh
get
yeah.
into that maybe somewhere down the line. But the green beans, they just were not it. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, I have to agree. No disrespect at all. We appreciate all the work you did, but yeah, some things just better left not being made, I guess.
Yeah. So I guess kind of shifting gears in terms of the timetable when you started kind of becoming like a young teen or very much kind of like on that cusp of being a young youth as things go.
hmm
What were some things in that era that you weren't really didn't really appeal to you?
When I was a young teen, I still wasn't a fan of ketchup, and
Really?
everybody would, be like, "What's wrong with you? What island are you from?" Because I'd get fries, no ketchup. I would eat a burger, just bun, cheese, meat. And that took me a while to even get to the bun and cheese part. Because when I was a kid, I used to literally we'd go to McDonald's or something or any fast food, and I would just ask for like 2 patties in a box.
Mhm.
And I think it embarrassed my parents every time they had to ask. It's like, "Can we just get, a quarter pounder, but literally as plain as possible, just the meat?" So the people's response would be like, "No bun, no bun. No cheese, no cheese. Anything? Nope, just the meat. Pop it in a box. It'll be greasy. It's fine." So, but it took me up until I would say my high school years before I finally started actually like giving ketchup a try. And it's funny because I gave it a try on accident and just my taste buds at that point changed. And I was like, oh, man, this ain't bad. And then from there, I ended up moving forward and becoming, an actual member of the human race at that point.
Yeah, no, ketchup, I guess question, did you remember if you didn't like ketchup when it was cold or when it was hot? Like, was there a state that ketchup was in that you're just like, this just isn't it for me, you know?
It was just none of it. None of it. Cold, hot, sitting on the table at the diner all day. It didn't matter. It was just if any red liquid substance was on my food, it was immediately pushed to the side or given to someone else. I,
Yeah.
I was
No.
just, I was picky and stubborn, man.
You know, it's weird. Like the more I think about the times that we went to like the circle together and stuff, like I didn't clock that you wouldn't put condiments on stuff. Like you just
Nope.
were against it.
Yeah, I mean, I would eat chicken strips with nothing. I had chicken nuggets with no sauce. Like everybody else would get ranch, ketchup, buffalo, barbecue, sweet honey, or whatever it is they'd get. Just raw dog it, man. Just straight regular chicken nuggets. Like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a temperature thing for me. Like as much as I'd like to be able to inhale a single chicken strip without it burning my mouth, I'm always like I need just a little thing to just kind of curb this and curb this intensity of it. So that was what got me into ketchup in that front was I was like I really like it even though I hated tomatoes. I could not for the life of me. I liked ketchup, but I hated the idea of tomatoes.
Oh yeah, no. Raw tomatoes is a no go for me. And it took forever to even want to try like cooked tomatoes and spaghetti sauce or anything, you know. And that's the other thing. We can get to the crunchy or smooth peanut butter topic in a little bit. But going back to what you said, I've never thought about that in my nearly 25 years of existence that people might use condiments to cool their food down to take a bite quicker.
Oh
Is
yeah.
that's a thing?
Well, at least for me, because I very much was so I had two modes, right?
Uh-huh.
I would go to the diner, I would order a cup of chili or a bowl of chili if I'm feeling rambunctious, and I'd
Oh,
order a side of fries with it. Just because like I liked the way that the chili like flavor was on the fries. So like I had chili fries, but I basically took out the mess in between. Um,
okay.
but yeah, like the thing about it was like at this local diner that's known as the Circle in our hometown, they would have like these scalding hot chicken strips, and they were always really good.
Mhm.
And I think that for me, it was very much like you would crack them, and then you would just feel the heat bellow into your hands. You're like, ah, ah, as like a young
Yes.
kid. And so then I would go reach over for my patent issue Heinz ketchup bottle, slap a couple spills of that on my plate, and then very much I would use that to kind of the help temper the chicken strips. So it was kind of like almost like rudimentary forged in fire cooking method by using it as kind of like a coolant in that regard.
Maybe you're just a genius. No wonder you're pursuing a master's degree because I never thought about that. I have never once in my life thought about just dipping it in a lukewarm or cold condiment to cool it down so you can eat it quicker. Because another thing that, like, you've probably seen this, I used to let my food sit for a long time before I ate it. I was
Mm,
never somebody like cereal. I ate it soggy half the time. And that's, depending on the cereal, that could get gnarly. But I
mhm,
just sit there and let it sit because I don't know why. But like hot food, my mom or, whoever, if I went out to eat, I'd let it sit for like 10, 15 minutes before I ate. While my dad's over here burning the roof of his mouth every 2 seconds because it's like it comes straight out of the oven, nom, 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 nom.
mhm.
And so just the other day, I was like, I'm going to be like dad today. I'm just going to take a bite immediately. For the next 2 days, the roof of my mouth was burnt.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how people enjoy this. Do they just like torturing themselves? Like,
I mean, it could be an endorphin high at the end of the day,
it's,
with kind of
it's like when
spicy
you,
food bringing that about. But
yeah, I mean, I love spicy food. I just don't like it when it's too hot, like temperature wise, you know? But I mean, I don't know. Because now that I think about it, it's like when you take a pizza roll out too early and you're like, hot, 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 that kind of stuff. It's just, why not let it sit? Bite into it when it's a little cooler. Then you can enjoy it without misery.
see, my pizza roll tip, because I probably wharfed down anywhere between 1,000 to maybe 10,000 pizza rolls in my day as a young kid, was I would basically bite the ends of the pizza roll to vent it, and then
Yeah.
I would basically come back to it.
See, that's a smart way. Again, genius. Your IQ is at 200 right now.
I don't know, it's like, and it's weird that, these were things that I'm like, these are perfectly reasonable, like, avenues to take, as I'm like,
Hmm.
because, like, I think at a very young age, because, I we might have to get, when we get into if we're talking about dentistry, and we can talk about the whole wreck that is my mouth.
Oh,
Um, that basically, it's like, I think of, for a number of years, I'm like, I don't like the inside of my mouth feeling like agony. How do I make this easier? How do I work
right.
smarter but not harder?
Yeah. Like, why do I want to just ruin my experience of life? You know? Like, eating is one of the few things in life that you can, like, enjoy on a daily basis. Why do I want to ruin that? So I don't know, but everyone, maybe they just burn their taste buds so much as a kid that it's just, if they don't get the burn, they don't enjoy it.
Hmm.
It's like spicy levels. Some people love ghost pepper, some people love regular Frank's buffalo or anything like that. To me, I don't like the ones that don't have any flavor. I can handle heat, but it's got to have flavor to it.
Hmm. You need a melody in the midst of the orchestra that is the agony that is going about in your mouth.
Yeah, I mean, same thing with coffee or alcohol. It's like I cannot drink either of those plain. I will
Hmm.
not. I personally don't see how people can be like, "Hey, I'll take a vodka on the rocks." I'm like, "Where's the enjoyment there?" Cuz you're just like burning your throat. Maybe I'm not experienced enough cuz I don't really partake in drinking too very often. But
Hmm.
no, I just I've given up and have accepted that I'm a frou-frou boy. Like, I have to have flavored coffee. I have to have flavored drinks. It's just something with me and flavor. Because if not, I would rather not have it at all.
Hmm.
That's probably just my picky, stubborn side coming out in different ways.
It makes me wonder, because I think you and I are both notoriously long-term cola drinkers. Like, we drink soda, we've drank like everything and I think every flavor under the sun,
Probably.
um, realistically. And so I wonder if it's like that angle of, like, we're used to the sweetness and we're used to, like, that, like, tang about it, but like, we kind of gravitate towards those flavors that I'm like, yeah, if I'm tasting something that's very bitter,
Hmm.
I'm like, I think the bitterest or the most savory things I drink are broths of soup, honestly. But
Yeah.
because, like, I'm like, if I'm having a mixed drink, I'm wanting it to potentially be something along the lines that's a lot more like, I mean, I want it to kind of like, I have a dangerous category as things go,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
if I can't taste the alcohol, then I call it dangerous, because I'm like, if I was just basically drinking these to just one after the other, I would be in real big trouble real
You're in a
quick.
new universe very quickly. Yeah, no, it's like, also, side note, have you ever had an alcoholic milkshake before?
I think I had the opportunity for it, but I've never tried it. But I know they exist,
Oh,
because one of the YouTubers I like to watch is How to Drink, and he basically makes, like, specifically drinks that kind of like occur within popular fandoms and gaming culture.
yeah.
And one of the episodes he did was he basically made an alcoholic milkshake that basically was inspired by a drink known as the Double Death Commando from the Starstruck Odyssey comic book series, and it,
Okay.
like, looked very good. But the thing about it is, it's like, I'm more of a sweet guy when it comes to drinking milkshakes. So I'm not, like, I wouldn't want, like, it to be a bitter shake in that regard.
Right. Oh, they're good. When I went to Minnesota, my friend in Minnesota introduced it to me, and I never knew it existed. And I didn't even know like coffee milkshakes existed until this last year. I'm just really behind on the times, right? I am just
Yeah.
ancient caveman over here. I'm surprised I even know how to work technology enough to record this. But
Hmm.
like we had basically an orange cream milkshake, but it had
Oh, that
vodka.
sounds good.
It had vodka in it. And
Hmm.
my friend and I, as soon as we took the first sip, we're like, we need to monitor each other. We need to be careful because you didn't taste it at all, but you got the effect of it kind of quick.
Hmm.
So, ooh, I want to have another one eventually, but man, those are good. Those are good. And
Oh,
real quick, because I thought of something interesting when you were talking about like video game drinks. Can we all admit just how amazing a Krabby Patty looked when we were a kid?
yeah.
Like that looked like God's greatest creation when we were children.
Yeah. Like the paragon of burgers, but then you look in real life and it's like, yeah, I'll have a cheeseburger plain. Like that was the go-to order. Like it's like
Right.
we don't want the pickles, we don't want the lettuce, we don't want the ketchup and mustard. Like the patty looks great. The
Yeah.
cheese looks like ideal. But yeah, the Krabby Patty is arguably one of the best foods that has been animated within the modern time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I one of these days just to see what it would even remotely taste like, I want to make one. Try to come up with my own version one day and see how it would actually taste. Because I'm sure someone out there has a recipe. Like there's gotta be a SpongeBob recipe for it, secret
Oh,
secret formula. But
SpongeBob boy, today we will cook a patty.
oh god. Yeah, one of these days I gotta do that.
Yeah.
So out of okay, besides the Krabby Patty, when you were younger, or even now, like if there was a food or drink item that you've seen in some kind of show or movie or game, what would be the one that you would want to try the most?
Ooh, that was a good question. I think it was a little bit later when I was a bit older, but when Ratatouille came out, the
Hmm.
moment where Remy brings the soup that had been like slated for chaos in the first scene in Gusteau's kitchen,
Uh-huh.
when he turned that into a cream soup, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that looks divine." I would
Yeah.
love to try that because I'm a clam chowder guy. Like I love clam chowder,
Hmm.
and seeing that and just being like, "Wow." Like this mouse is so ingenious, being able to bring this soup back from the calamity that Linguini has put it in. But it's like it aesthetically, that movie has some of the best looking food.
Oh yeah.
Like I would probably never remotely have any, but just to be able to know it's like, yeah, that exists and you could realistically order it. It's like, ah, so
Ooh.
good.
Yeah, I know. Everything. I mean, Disney can make movies that just that's a Disney movie. Yeah, it's a Disney movie. I'm not the best, most, I don't have the greatest catalog on Disney movies, but like all those cartoon films can make food just look so mouth-watering.
Hmm.
Like even the little tiny final plate that he presents to the reviewer at the end just looks
Yeah,
like bomb.
yeah. The Ratatouille itself, like yeah, it's like that whole sequence is just a beautiful moment in that movie, and
Yeah.
I think.
Cinematography.
Mhm. Plus, it's got a rollerblading waiter. It was ahead of its time. It was the
It w-
Sonic of France.
the Sonic of France. Coin that one. Oh man. Yeah, no, that show was bomb, but well, speaking of bombs, I would say from Fallout, I've always wanted to try a Nuka-Cola
Mm,
or Nuka-Cola Quantum, see if I start glowing when I'm done.
yeah. Yeah, I kind of liken it to the idea that I imagine it would taste like a Coca-Cola, but then like a V8 battery. Like, like it's got like that when you put like a 9-volt battery to your tongue, kind of like twinge to it. I'm sure if somebody's actually gone through like, what would this drink realistically taste like? You could probably fact check me in the comments if you want to. But that's what I liken it to. I'm like, there's like this like buzz about it that just tastes like battery
It's just
fluid.
straight battery acid and cola mixed together. The quantum
Yeah.
version is just cola and glow stick juice.
Just just
Like
just lithium. Just straight lithium.
oh, it's electrifying. Oh, that would give you a jolt.
Hmm.
Man, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think some foods that I saw on TV that I didn't ever think was appealing. Or like, what's some foods? Okay, here's one. Like people who say this is amazing, like 99 people, but which food are you the one person where you're like, I don't understand the hype. I don't get it.
Yeah. Ooh. I think for me, it's General Cakes.
Just like cakes in general.
Yeah. Like I think I was actually talking to one of my coworkers about this earlier today. But I am not the biggest cake person in the world. Like I am very much basic in the fact that I'm like I like strawberry cake, I like vanilla cake, and I also like the rainbow chip cakes that come out,
Hmm.
but that's all. But when I kind of go to a gathering and I see the like several centimeters deep frosting that holds its form, that's very much like this is for the presentation to ensure that the cake maintains its like its frosted exterior. And just to me, that frosting is just an instant turn off. I'm like, I don't understand how this is good. I just I can't get behind that type of frosting. And also, I'm somebody who really enjoys, so I think it comes down to two factors if the cake is going to be successful. One, if the frosting is anything other than that specific type of frosting in that regard, so like if you've got a cream cheese frosting or like something that's like very unique and homemade, like if it's homemade frosting, I'm for it.
Yeah.
And two, how moist the cake is on the inside.
Bingo.
Um, and I think that the top tier that I could choose on that front would be a 7 Up cake. I love a good 7 Up cake, and I've only had two of them in my time, but they were magnificent. But yeah, it's just something about just the idea of biting into a heavily frosted, dry piece of cake is one of the most asinine concepts to me. I just can't get behind it. What about you?
Pie.
Oh, you don't like pie?
Pie. No, I went my entire life without trying it, except for like a year or two ago. Never understood the hype. Because I think one time when I was a kid, I took one little bite. So I guess technically I tried it then, but I took one little
Mhm.
bite and it was just flaky and dry, and the fruit tasted like it came straight out of a freaking trash can.
Mm.
And from that point on, I'm like, I don't get it. I do not understand. Like at Thanksgiving, everybody's like, pie. And I'm like, you can have all that. Give me the green bean casserole. We'll be good.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
just pie is overrated to me. I really just don't get cherry, apple, nothing. I have pumpkin pie especially. I have not had a single pie that I've enjoyed.
This is truly a conflicted episode because
This-
I stand pie.
oh
I
no.
adore it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just the shirt colors in general, man. Red pill, blue pill. It's like pie is a no go for me. I don't mind cake. I agree that dry cake does not deserve a place on this earth, but you have a nice, succulent, moist, just air filled cake with not too much frosting, but not too little.
Mhm.
That's a winner. You can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's very much I was a pie guy, but I think specifically I'm not a big fruit pie guy, but I am a
Okay.
huge pumpkin pie guy and I love cream variant pies. So, banana cream, chocolate cream, coconut cream, like those have my heart, like truly. But yeah, I just can't like I mean, I do like a good apple pie. If an apple pie is executed well, I am here for it. But I think there are
Okay.
others that I'm like, "Ooh, this boysenberry pie is not up to even though people would
Boysenberry.
probably be like, "This boysenberry pie is awesome," and I'm like, this cherry pie is a bit too cherry for my taste."
She's my cherry pie. That's all I can think of when I hear that. Just
Yeah,
old school Guitar Hero, man. But
yeah.
yeah, pie is
I'm
just a
not a
no go.
pie snob. I should specify that, but I think there are certain points where I
It's
bite
just
into a pie and I'm just like, yeah, it's just not it. It is just not what
yeah.
I'm looking for right now.
Well, and another one for me that took a while for me to find one I liked was cheesecakes.
Uh,
Cheesecake, it's just like too much. It's just too much there. And the only one that I really enjoyed for the first time was a mustard seed, right? And I
mm-hmm,
think they had like a cookies and cream one where the bottom was Oreo, and then it
hmm.
had the cookies and cream whatever it's made out of. and that one was fine because it was light and fluffy with a nice, crusty bottom.
Mhm.
Pause. But like, you know, everything about that was good. But then I've had ones in the past where I take one bite and I just feel sick.
Mm.
Just too much. So cheesecakes are very, very particular for me.
Oh, no. I stand cheesecakes. I'm willing to give a cheesecake a try, honestly. Like I'm pretty basic too. If you give me a New York and you slather like a strawberry jam over it, I'm made. I am enjoying that piece of pie or that
Yeah.
piece of cheesecake.
Oh, I'm more willing to give cheesecake a try than I am pie, if that gives you any inclination. Pie is
Hmm.
just like if I had a tier list, like pie would be at a D level. Not quite F. It's not awful, but for me it would be like a D level.
Hmm.
So that's probably going to offend some people. I don't know. Fucking hot takes here.
Yeah.
Or in my case, lukewarm because I got to let it cool down first.
Hmm. Yeah. You've got to give your mouth some rest from all the intense heat punishment you gave it over the years.
I know. Just awful.
Hmm.
Oh man. Okay,
Yeah.
so freaking pie, cheesecake, cake. Here's a question.
Hmm.
Okay, cupcakes and cakes. Same thing. Which one's better?
I would eat a cupcake over a cake.
Okay, because I'm the same way. And it's something similar. Sliced cheese or shredded cheese?
Ooh, I think I prefer sliced cheese because I think
Really?
I like the volume of sliced cheese. Like I'll eat shredded cheese, but I'm like if I've got, slices of cheese in my fridge, I will gladly put those out on a plate and I will make hors d'oeuvres out of them. I think it's the mess that shredded cheese makes that turns me off from it.
See, I can't be the only person who noticed this, but sliced cheese versus shredded cheese, they taste different. Like it could be shredded cheddar and sliced cheddar, and it tastes different. And I've always thought that shredded cheese tastes better than block cheese or sliced cheese. And you could literally take the block cheese, shred some of it, and all of a sudden there's a different taste. I mean,
Mm,
if anybody agrees with me, let me know. But like, I've always thought shredded cheese tastes better than, sliced cheese. Not saying there's anything wrong with sliced cheese. I love cheese in general.
mhm.
But just that like weird conundrum of like it's the same thing. It went from block to shredded and all of a sudden it tastes better.
Yeah.
Like what kind of paradox are we living in here?
Well, I wonder if it has to do with like surface, like when you expose like a slice of cheese to the elements, like very much that surface has the ability to kind of like react to it. But when you cut into the cheese, you expose it, so you basically bring that like richness that has not been suffocated by the outdoor elements out. That is my hypothesis in that regard.
Okay. Interesting. How about blue cheese? How do you feel about blue cheese?
Ooh, can't do it.
You
I
can't?
think it's the idea that blue cheese as a dip, the idea of finding little pieces of cheese in like my, in it, I just can't. I think I'd eat it, but it's
Mhm.
not my go-to. I'm a ranch stan all the way.
You're a rich Stan. Well, I asked the question because it's a very controversial one. People are like, screw blue cheese, or it's like, put blue cheese on everything. And like for me, I won't eat like a blue cheese dip or anything like that. Like if I have hot wings or something, I won't dip those in anything. Not ranch, not blue cheese, nothing, because I like to enjoy the flavor of the hot wing itself. But if I'm having now, obviously we know Mackenzie River, right? They
Mhm,
have the buffalo chicken pasta.
mhm,
I have to have blue cheese in that because it just tops it off. It's like little blue cheese crumbs, and it's
mhm.
incredible.
Yeah,
But yeah, I was curious because blue cheese is very controversial.
yeah.
Um, I had one in my mind. I might let you take over because I got to think about it. There was another one I had. Oh, got it. Fries in a frosty or ice cream.
Can't do it.
You can't.
I could not do it. I I live in a reality where my savories and my sweets need to be separated at all times.
Okay.
The one bridge that I have is the occasional uh, presentation of candied bacon.
Candied bacon.
Yes, candied
Interesting.
bacon is the one spot that I will allow that overlap. But when people would be like, "I'm gonna dip my fry in my frosty," I'm like, "I don't want salt in my frosty."
Fair. I was curious because I mean I've tried it before and I don't get the hype. It's not terrible, but it's not the greatest invention in mankind, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
that's why fries and chili was so revolutionary. That was my contribution to humanity. Was like, what if I order this hearty soup and I dip the fries in the soup and I eat the fries and I find enjoyment from that.
I have a confession to make. I've never had chili fries in my lifetime.
Oh, you're missing
I've
out.
never had them.
It is a upper tier concession item if you
Uh,
can get it. Formerly at Red Robin, they would have jalapeno chili cheese fries that were S tier. I loved them, and it is definitely one of those combinations where it's a good melody. Like if you have a good bowl of chili and you have good fries, your chili cheese fries are gonna slap.
it's gonna slap hardcore.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think the Red Robin in Missoula is not open anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But dang,
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to try it eventually because I like chili, I like fries, I like cheese. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know how I feel about jalapeno though. Like
Yeah.
I love spicy stuff, but jalapeno to me, I've tried it before on like a Hawaiian pizza or just in general.
Hmm.
Nah, you know, eh.
Yeah, I'm not a big pineapple on pizza. It's the same thing where I'm like, you've got a slightly citrusy sweet or yeah, it's kind of like it's more like a sour. It's like a citrusy sour pineapple
Yeah.
on like a savory, and I'm like, I can't do it. And for all of my friends who enjoy pineapple on pizza, I respect your opinion. I will politely have to decline.
Yeah, no, I'm one of the guilty ones. I don't mind it. I mean, it's not my like go-to number one, but a good Hawaiian pizza, Canadian bacon, bacon, and pineapple, I can eat that all day.
Yeah. So we've proceeded to talk at length about favorite foods and things we didn't like, and now we've kind of married the two with like things that are really good and things that aren't. I guess kind of considering some other domains in that space of things. I know one thing that I didn't really like growing up. I didn't like running.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Shin
Yeah.
splints. Felt like they were going to explode. Felt like ticking time bombs in my legs every time I'd run a mile. And given I wasn't the most athletic person when I got into like high school, middle school, I ran a lot, and I ran a lot in like middle school and elementary. Because I
Mhm.
remember, like one of a mutual friend of ours, we would race each other around the playground in recess and see who could run the quickest. So there for a while I did, but as I got older, my shins just they were held together by duct tape and paper clips. So I kind of just gave up on that. I'm like, I'll do it once in a while, but I'll find some other way of exercise.
Yeah. I I think for me, and this is one of my origin memories of things go. I was a it was in kindergarten,
Hmm.
and I was in a race against only one other person. I believe it might have actually been first or second grade, now that I recall.
Right.
And I lived under the assumption that if I cheered my feet on, I would run quicker. Nobody taught me how to run properly.
Hmm.
So I just was like, in my heavy set frame for the time, like, I mean, I was just an out of shape kid. Like, I just didn't do anything to maintain my physique. And so it would be me running around the track, and I'm like, come on, little guys, you got it, as I'm like looking at my feet, and I'm not even looking at the path ahead of me.
Yeah.
Like, any chance of forward momentum is shot. And I was also, when I kind of was younger, um, I couldn't get behind running miles. Like, I just, for some odd reason, I would get so fatigued that I'm
Hmm.
like, yeah. And I think the moment when I was like maybe we need to change something about this, was when I had like a 20-minute mile from just walking, and I was
Oh
not
yeah.
quick about it at all. And so I was like the last person to come in for the day, and I was just like, oh my goodness, you gotta fix something. This should not be the norm for like a 11 or 12-year-old kid.
Yeah, I was right there with you, dude. Like there for a while. Obviously, I mean, we've grown up together, so we know where each other was at different, points in life. And when I was at one of my heaviest points, and we were doing, the mile outside of the mile in the gym, I personally preferred the mile in the gym because you can kind of like cut those corners, so I could like cut some time off and make it look like I was doing better. But like when we went out in the mile and everything outside at the track, it was like I was doing like 14, 15 minutes, and usually you just end up walking,
Yeah.
and not for a lack of trying, some days I should say, but I would try to do like the first lap and a half, 2 laps, but after that my shins were on fire. I'm like, I'm not pushing this anymore. I don't want to keel over and have, compound fractures in both legs from running a mile. So yeah, I mean, it was bad there for a while for me. Like, I remember the sign of change for me was when, the stairs in the library that led up to the study hall room, so like
Hmm.
behind the
Hmm.
librarian desk, it's not a
Yeah, yeah.
very tall set of steps at all. It's only like, and it's not one of those like super steep ones. It's more of those like
It's
really long.
gradual.
Yeah, I got winded walking up that, and I'm like, okay, this is bad. This needs to change. And that was junior year of high school for me.
Mm.
So that was right before I got the job at McGowan's, and McGowan's really helped there. But like, yeah, working at the grocery store, being a what were we called? Box boy,
Box boy.
box
Hmm.
boy. Or if you want to get personal, I think it was courtesy clerk was the
Yep,
professional
courtesy
term,
clerk. Hmm. Hmm.
which was fun. We could talk about that sometime, where because we worked with all of our friends at the local grocery store. It was great. That was so
Hmm.
much fun. But yeah, no, that's when things changed for me. And of course, I was never like super athletic or super, in shape or anything like that. But that was the point where I'm like, okay, I need to do something, or else life is just going to be on a constant downhill spiral from there.
Hmm.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you got into great shape, there in the high school days when you were running not track, but cross country, playing
Hmm.
basketball. Um, you were just really active. You were riding bikes all the time, walking all everywhere. It's like you got into some incredible shape there for a while.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely, I don't think it was anything revolutionary. Like I think I was in a space where if I would have been potentially coached in that fact, where like it's like people were like, "Yeah, Alan, let's help round out what you're doing with here. Like maybe we can talk about diet, we can talk about, where things are at." I mean, I was still, and to kind of since now this has become a foodie episode, as we're just kind of like
Now
the
we're
food
talking
is
about
just
fitness.
the backdrop. I was the type of guy that would go into our local pizzeria. I would order a 16-inch pizza with an order of breadsticks and two tall glasses of soda. And I would eat that to myself while I was listening to country music because it was like a Western themed pizzeria.
Yeah,
And in that kind of space of things, it's just like, I ate well, but like I could have stood to eat healthier, and I could have stood to maybe like go the extra mile in that front. But
yeah,
there wasn't a lot on the line for me. Like it was just an activity for me to do, so I was not like at this point where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go Olympic. The I'm going pro. It's like, no, I'm just here to have fun.
yeah. Have fun, get a little healthier. But I mean, you did
Yeah.
have a pretty drastic body transformation. I don't think I don't think that aspect of things is appreciated enough, because to go from where you were when you were younger to where you got to in high school, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. It's one of those moments where I don't even think like, because like I know the photos of us as fifth graders exist where I think I look a lot different than I do now. Like I think there was like a tannish complexion. My face was a lot more rounded in that regard, and so just kind of going to from that point of being like, it's like, yeah, I've just been this like soft baby face person to now it's like I have a defined jaw, or I feel like I'm relatively good put together with being like a third or a half legs, half torso, and maybe a quarter of a head as things go. And so it was definitely one of those points where I'm like, yeah, like I I don't know if it truly sank in like just how much like that development looked. But I guess kind of looking back, it's like, yeah, in comparison to where I was as like a fifth or sixth grader, like going into that point, it's like, yeah, I became well rounded.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's weird because when you get into those situations where you change, like your body changes, you don't necessarily realize it too much. At least speaking from my experience too. You know,
Mhm,
I've had at one point I had a very drastic change.
mhm,
Um and it's weird because when I looked in the mirror, I still saw myself as where I was before I started. You know what I
mhm,
mean? And so I
mhm,
don't know if it was something similar to you where like you would look in the mirror and you're like nothing's changed, but in reality it's like everything's changed.
mhm,
And it's just this, I think it's called body dysmorphia if I'm not mistaken.
mhm.
But it's just weird cuz even to this day I still picture myself as how I looked when I walked up that staircase when I
Mhm.
look in the mirror. And I have everybody tell me that it's like, dude, you don't look anything like that anymore. But,
Yeah.
you know, to me, that's what I see.
Mhm.
So is that something that you battle as well? Or like is it just more of a you don't notice the change until just a random day where you're like, whoa, I changed quite a bit.
Yeah, I think that it was something for me along the lines of I think I didn't see the results as quickly as I would have envisioned. Like I think they gradually occurred over that course of time.
Hmm.
I think I very much was in this camp of I'm just like I think I had bigger fish to fry, honestly.
That's
But
fair.
I think there was that part of me that was like, "Oh, I'm hitting the weights, I'm working out, but I'm not seeing it." Like I don't feel like I'm making an impact through my choices here. Like with trying to like kind of do prep work to kind of make my sports seasons a little bit better. And and so I think where it really hit me um specifically, I think was probably right around my junior year was
Hmm.
when I think at that point I'd already had 2 years of cross country under my belt, so I could then be kind of like, I could be a relatively quick post
Hmm.
because I can do longevity in terms of going up and down the court as things go. And so I was able to very much see it's like, yeah, like my ability to learn how to distance run. And even though I was not a stellar, like state worthy athlete at it, I was still able to gain skills that allowed me to then basically influence my other sports in terms of like, yeah, like, and I think it also changed my mindset a bit too. Like
Hmm.
one day I had to run about 8 miles was the tall order. And this was my, I want to say it was probably my sophomore year when it happened. It was either sophomore or junior year.
Hmm.
And we were basically going down up lower Lynch or no, we were on lower Lynch as things go, and it was kind of going down Lover's Lane. Like it was basically you would go back into the hilly country, then
Yeah.
you would take a left, and then you would just kind of end up over near the golf course, and then you would take the footpath back over by specifically Gary's Auto, that diagonal path that's kind of
Yeah.
out there. Um,
Man,
and
you
then you
guys
would
did a
drop
lot.
down and hit, yeah.
Ooh.
And just then being able to be like in other scenarios where it's like, oh, I need to basically be able to endure this allotted amount of time. I could then mentally shore myself up and be in the mindset of like, okay, this is me running 8 miles again. I need to just pace myself and I need to, you know, be able to kind of like stay in control as I'm expending all this energy over this trek of time.
That's interesting. Because I know you guys ran like a lot. I heard about the golf course all the time when you guys would run,
Mhm.
but I didn't ever think about like how much that actually affect your cardio when it came to basketball. Um, and I was just thinking about it like cross country, track runners, everything like that. A lot of respect to them. One that I could never see myself doing is the amount of like stress that wrestlers go through.
Mm.
Like you heard about the stories of them running up and down the art room stairs until they threw up, basically, or like the amount of they could barely eat anything to cut weight. And I hear stories all the time about like when they cut weight, they drop pounds like in a day or two.
Hmm.
And like I remember the high school wrestling team. I mean, we know a few people that were on there, and of course they're in phenomenal shape. But man, I couldn't imagine the stress that puts on your body.
Yeah.
Like that constant, just drastic diet change. And then, like, you can't do this for so long. You put yourself through all that, to make weight and everything. And then when you do eventually finish, you can like gorge yourself with like pizza or something.
Hmm.
But yeah, respect to them, but I
Yeah.
couldn't do it.
Yeah, I think it's an entirely different domain of fortitude, honestly. And it takes a lot of restraint. It also takes a lot of pushing in order to kind of meet those standards and goals.
Yeah.
Because very much like if you are an ounce or a couple pounds over as it lines up in that regard, then you are currently facing like a point where it's like, okay, I have to do something in between now and before I get on this map that or on this mat that will allow me to be able to perform my sport.
Yeah. Yeah, it just blew my mind. So respect to them, but I'd never do it. I'm like, nah, nah, not my thing.
Mhm.
So what's one sport that you wish that you would have tried, or something that you want to try now that you didn't do when you were in school?
Yeah, I think and I think it comes down with the availability, right? I
Mm,
think that from our experience in school, like very much we had sports that were very much tailored. For instance, we had a girls volleyball team, but we didn't have like a men's volleyball team. Um, I think one that I would have maybe given some consideration for was I think I would have been possibly a good volleyball player. Like I think that I was the right size, I could move around and it wouldn't be as like strenuous, but I think where I would have found my Achilles heel would have been very much kind of getting good at communication
mm-hmm,
with my teammates. And then also being able to do the right formation or like the right response to how a ball's coming towards me to
mm,
be able to volley it in a way that either sets somebody else up, gets it over the net, or potentially setting myself up to spike the ball down.
yeah,
Uh, I know I have a couple of friends of mine within my cohort that play volleyball intramurally in that angle, and it has been definitely one of those things where I'm like, man, I would love to give that a try again because I think I could do it,
right.
um, and I don't think it would be too stressful or laborious on my body,
Mm,
but in that space of things, I think that it would have been volleyball. I would have considered soccer, and I think if I was going to go for the intellectual challenge of something that I wanted to possibly do, I think if we had a designated robotics team in our school, I would have considered getting into engineering and basically doing programming in that regard.
man, that would have been fun if we could have gotten into that and then just created battle bots.
Yeah,
Let's just start fighting each other with our own robot. That'd be great.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't
What about
sports
you?
wise. I don't know. So I played football, basketball. I don't know if you count like when we did those track days. Or not track days, what were they called? They were
Track meets?
uh maybe they were like little Olympic games that we did when we
Hmm.
were in school. I just forget what they were called.
Hmm.
I really enjoyed doing the high jump. That was always one of my favorites when I was obviously more fit and younger, but the high jump. So I wonder if I could have gotten into something like that. I feel like if I had the drive back then, I feel like cross country would have been really good for me. If I would have
Hmm.
got into it, got myself in shape, and built that cardio, because then I feel like I would have performed better in like basketball and football.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't really know if you count this as a sport, but something I've always wanted to be able to do was be able to parkour. Like, I don't know
Mm.
if you count that as a sport. It's probably more like a CrossFit exercise if you really get into the nitty gritty.
Well, I think at the time, I think parkour was such a new concept. Like it was just something that just kind of like took the world by storm
Yeah.
around the 2000s, 2010s. And like nowadays, I would understand that it's a sport. I remember being in I was in Buffalo Wild Wings in Butte, and I
Mm,
remember watching a specific tag-a-thon
yeah.
where it was set up like a parkour like jungle gym, and so people would have to like duck and dive into like and just try to avoid being tagged. And it was like competitive in that regard of like, two people who are really good at parkour trying to evade each other in this jungle gym. So
Oh,
so I would consider it a sport now that it's kind of rooted itself and it now has a foundation within society.
yeah. No, I mean, all that stuff's incredible to watch. I mean, I wouldn't be parkouring across, thousands and thousands of foot of skyscrapers like YouTubers do, where they're basically recording a a living, breathing death wish. But parkour in general, I think it would just be cool. If you can be flipping from little different areas and landing on your feet everywhere, knowing how to roll through and all this stuff. Plus, it could come in handy if there was ever a dangerous situation someday.
Hmm.
Like you're getting attacked or something and you have this ability to dodge or be able to run and get away. Not everybody in the world's going to be able to parkour over a fence and onto a rooftop. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So,
Just the idea that you can elude being stabbed by just throwing yourself from one roof to another and then landing without taking any additional
yeah,
damage
just roll through
is
like a stud.
such a flex. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Alan, I do believe this has been a wonderful conversation. And I
Yeah.
think we're coming up on our time here. So, do you have any final words that you'd like to end this podcast with, this episode?
Yeah. I would just say for the viewers out there, in case you've been wondering since the beginning, I have stepped down from my hill that I wanted to die on gravy. I think gravy is magnificent and I love it. I love sausage gravy, turkey gravy, and brown gravy. So I've come a long way. And definitely I think the important thing to note is if there is something that you as a young person or when you were growing up you're like this is stupid and I don't even want to broach it. Like just give it a go. Like
Yeah.
things can change over the course of time. And if I can come to a place where I can like just about any single type of gravy, you can come to a place where you like something too. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us and stay tuned for the next one.
There you go. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you. And always remember, just be open minded. I mean, you can see us. We're different. We got blue, we got red, right? And it's like the Paul Rudd thing. Like, look at us. We're here now. Everything's fine. So, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys appreciated it, and we appreciate all of you. And stay tuned for some interesting concepts coming up. And we are in the works of planning some ideas for the future that may or may not involve some special guests. So we look forward to that. But in general, thank you everybody. The first episode did incredible. I mean, we didn't really
Yeah.
promote it too much, and I think within the first few days, it was what I think we're at like 150 views on it, and we
Yeah.
have like all the comments we've received are just positive, and that means a lot because this is an idea that we've had for a long time, and we're finally pulling the trigger, and I'm excited to see what happens. And this is a lot of fun. I mean, I feel like we just had a conversation this entire time, and
Mhm.
and we went everywhere from foods we didn't like to foods we liked to sports to everything. So um, that's what you can expect from this podcast, and we appreciate everybody. Thank you very much for watching. This has been the Hodgepodge Lodge. I'm Dustin. That is Alan, and we'll see you in the next one.